"Don't come for Christmas," my mum said over the phone, her voice cold as December wind. "We'll pretend we don't know you," my brother Derek laughed in the background. Little did they know, I secretly owned that night. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a family can make you feel like a ghost in your own life, and how sometimes the most beautiful revenge is simply living well. My name is Madison Carter, and for 25 years I've been the invisible daughter in a family that treats love like a limited resource. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and somehow everyone's conversation just stops? When you realise they were talking about plans that don't include you? That's been my entire existence. I'm a graphic designer now, making decent money in Chicago, but my family still sees me as that awkward kid who never quite fit their perfect family portrait. While my brother Derek was the golden child, star quarterback, business degree, married his college sweetheart, and my sister Emma was the princess, beautiful, charming, married a doctor, I was just there. The leftover child they never quite knew what to do with. The signs started early, really early. I remember my 8th birthday like it was yesterday, though I wish I could forget it. Mum had promised me a party at Chuck E. Cheese, the kind with friends from school and a big chocolate cake. I was so excited. I couldn't sleep for 3 nights. But the morning of my birthday, Derek woke up with a slight fever, not even a real illness, just feeling a little warm. Suddenly, my party was cancelled. "We can't leave Derek when he's sick, Madison," Mum explained, stroking his forehead like he was dying instead of having a minor headache. "We'll do something special for you next week." Next week never came. Derek recovered in 2 days, and by then everyone had moved on and had moved. I learned that day that my happiness would always come second to everyone else's convenience. 4 years later, at my middle school graduation, I scanned the audience desperately for familiar faces. All the other kids had their families there, cameras flashing, proud smiles beaming. My parents were at Derek's baseball game instead. A travel tournament, they said, more important than watching their daughter receive the Academic Excellence Award. I stood on that stage, holding my certificate, feeling smaller than I ever had before. Mrs. Henderson, my favourite teacher, noticed I was alone afterward. "Where's your family, sweetheart?" she asked gently. "They had somewhere more important to be," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. She drove me home that day, and I never forgot the pity in her eyes. That look told me everything I needed to know about how obvious my family's neglect really was. But the moment that really broke something inside me happened when I was 16. I'd worked my butt off all through high school, maintaining a 4.0 GPA while working part-time at a local cafe to save money for college. When the acceptance letter came from Northwestern with a full academic scholarship, I was over the moon. A full ride to one of the best schools in the country. I thought, finally, they'd be proud of me. I burst into the living room, waving the letter like a victory flag. "I got in! Full scholarship to Northwestern!" Dad glanced up from his newspaper for exactly 3 seconds. "That's nice, honey." Then turning to Derek, who was sprawled on the couch playing video games. "Hey, sport, Coach Miller called. You're starting varsity next season." The room erupted in celebration. Derek jumped up. Mum screamed with joy. Dad started planning celebration dinners. My scholarship letter might as well have been a grocery receipt for all the attention it got. What about Madison's scholarship? Emma asked, though she seemed more confused than excited. Oh, that's normal for Madison, Mum dismissed with a wave. She's always been good at school stuff. But Derek making varsity as a sophomore, that's special. I stood there, acceptance letter trembling in my hands, watching my family celebrate my brother's minor achievement while treating my life-changing scholarship like it was expected, like it was nothing. That night, I cried myself to sleep, and something fundamental shifted inside me. I stopped expecting them to care. College was my escape. 4 blissful years where I was valued for my mind, my creativity, my potential. I thrived at Northwestern, made real friends, discovered my passion for design. For the first time in my life, I felt like I mattered. Professors knew my name, classmates sought out my opinions, my work was displayed in student galleries. But every holiday break, every summer vacation, I'd come home and shrink back into invisible Madison. The pattern never changed. The final straw came during my senior year of college. Emma was getting married, a massive, elaborate affair that had been planned for over a year. Everyone in our extended family was invited. Cousins I hadn't seen in decades were flying in from across the country. The engagement party, bridal showers, rehearsal dinner. I heard about all of these events through Instagram posts and casual mentions. 3 weeks before the wedding, I finally asked Mom about my invitation. "Oh, honey," she said, not even looking up from her wedding planning binder, "we decided to keep it small, just immediate family and close friends." "I am immediate family," I said quietly. She paused, pen hovering over her checklist. "Well, you understand Emma's worried about the dynamics. You know how you can be sometimes. How I can be. You know, you make people uncomfortable. You're so serious all the time, so intense. Emma wants her day to be light and fun. She's afraid you'll bring down the mood." I stared at my mother, this woman who gave birth to me, who was supposed to love me unconditionally, and realized she was basically saying I was too depressing to attend my own sister's wedding. "Besides," she continued, "you'll be busy with finals anyway. It's probably better this way." I didn't fight it. I didn't scream or cry or demand my place at that wedding. I just nodded and walked away, something inside me finally accepting what I'd always known but never wanted to admit. I wasn't really part of this family. I was just someone who happened to share their DNA. The wedding photos later posted on Facebook showed exactly what I expected. A beautiful, joyful celebration filled with laughter and love. Emma looked radiant. Derek gave a touching best man speech that had everyone in tears. Mum and Dad beamed with pride. In group family photos, there was a noticeable gap where I should have been standing, but no one seemed to notice or care about the missing piece. That's when I started building my real life. The life where I mattered. After graduation, I moved to Chicago and threw myself into my career. I discovered I had a talent for branding and logo design, particularly for startups and tech companies. My work was sharp, modern, memorable. Within 2 years, I was freelancing for companies you'd recognize, creating visual identities that helped shape their success. But even as my career flourished, family events continued without me. Thanksgivings, where I wasn't invited, birthday parties I learned about through social media, family vacations planned around everyone's schedule except mine. Each exclusion hurt less than the last, which was somehow worse. It meant I was getting used to being forgotten. Last Thanksgiving was particularly brutal. I'd been hoping, stupidly, that maybe this year would be different. Maybe with some distance and success under my belt, they'd want to include me. I waited for an invitation that never came. Instead, I spent the day scrolling through Derek's Instagram stories, watching my family laugh around a perfectly set table, playing board games, sharing inside jokes I wasn't part of. The caption on the family photo read, "Grateful for family time with everyone we love." Everyone they loved. The message was crystal clear. Dad's 70th birthday party happened in March. I only found out about it when a cousin mentioned it in passing during a random phone call. "A surprise party," she said, assuming I'd obviously been there. When I explained I hadn't known about it, the awkward silence stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. "Oh, Madison, I'm sure it was just an oversight," she said finally, but her tone suggested she knew better. Then came Grandpa's funeral in June. Grandpa Joe, who used to sneak me extra cookies when I was little and taught me to play chess on lazy Sunday afternoons. I found out he'd died 3 days after the funeral, when a family friend posted condolences on Facebook. 3 days. My grandfather was dead and buried, and no one thought to call me for 3 days. I drove to the cemetery alone, stood by his fresh grave with flowers I'd bought at a gas station, and said goodbye to the one person in my family who'd ever made me feel seen. Even in death, they'd stolen that final moment from me. So when December rolled around and my phone rang with Mom's number, I already knew what was coming. I just didn't expect them to be quite so cruel about it. "Madison, sweetie, we need to talk about Christmas." Mum's voice had that fake sweet tone she used when she was about to disappoint me. "Okay," I said, stirring pasta sauce and mentally preparing myself. "Well, this year we've decided to keep things really intimate. Just the core family, you understand." Core family, like I wasn't part of the core. Like 25 years of being their daughter was just a technicality. "I see," I managed. "Derek's bringing Sarah and the kids, and Emma and James will be there with little Michael. It's going to be so chaotic with the grandchildren running around. We thought you'd probably prefer quiet Christmas anyway." They thought, they decided, they assumed. Never once did anyone ask what I wanted. "Madison, are you there?" "Yeah, I'm here." "Great, I'm so glad you understand. You're always so mature about these things." Mature. That was their word for it when I didn't fight back, when I accepted being excluded with grace, when I made their rejection of me easy for them. That's when I heard Derek's voice in the background, loud enough for me to hear clearly. "Tell her we'll pretend we don't know her if she shows up anyway." His laughter followed, and I heard Emma giggle too. My exclusion was apparently hilarious to them. "Madison," Mum's voice was strained now, probably realising I'd heard. "Don't worry," I said quietly. "I understand perfectly." I hung up and stood in my kitchen, wooden spoon dripping marinara sauce onto the floor, finally accepting what I should have understood years ago. I wasn't their daughter, their sister, their family member. I was an obligation they'd been trying to shed for decades, and they'd finally found their excuse. For the first time in my life, I was about to give them exactly what they wanted. But I was also about to discover something I never expected. Sometimes when you stop trying to earn love from people who'll never give it, you find out just how worthy of love you actually are. And sometimes the people who truly see your worth are watching from places you never imagined. The next morning, I called my best friend, Alex Martinez. Alex and I had been inseparable since our freshman year at Northwestern, bonding over late-night design projects and a shared love of terrible reality TV. While I'd struggled with feeling invisible my whole life, Alex had this incredible gift for making everyone around him feel seen and valued. He was a photographer now, the kind whose work appeared in magazines and gallery walls, but more importantly, he was the brother I'd never had. They did what? Alex's voice cracked through my phone speaker as I explained the Christmas situation. It's fine, I said, though we both knew it wasn't. I'm used to it. Madison Carter, I swear to God, if you say it's fine one more time... He paused and I could practically hear him thinking. You know what? Forget them. We're doing something amazing for Christmas. Alex, you don't have to. We're doing a photo shoot, a real one. Professional makeup, styling, the works. You're going to see yourself the way the rest of the world sees you. Absolutely stunning and completely worthy of celebration. That's how I found myself in Alex's studio 3 days before Christmas, feeling more nervous than I had since my college portfolio review. Alex had called in favours from his network, makeup artist, hairstylist, even a fashion stylist who brought options that probably cost more than my rent. Trust the process, Alex said, adjusting his camera settings. Today isn't about your family. It's about you remembering who you are when you're not shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. The transformation was startling, as layers of professional makeup enhance features I'd always considered plain, as the stylist worked magic with my usually unruly hair, as I slipped into a gorgeous deep red dress that hugged my curves perfectly. I watched a stranger emerge in the mirror. Not a stranger, actually, the woman I'd always been, but had never been allowed to see. Holy shit, Madison, the makeup artist Carmen breathed. Girl, you are absolutely gorgeous. Like magazine cover gorgeous. For the first time in my life, looking in a mirror didn't involve finding flaws or wondering why I wasn't pretty like Emma. I saw strength in my jawline, intelligence in my eyes, grace in the way I held myself. I saw someone worth knowing. The photo shoot itself was magic. Alex guided me through poses that felt natural, capturing moments where I looked confident, serene, powerful. With each click of the camera, I felt more like myself. Not the diminished version of myself I became around my family, but the full, complete Madison who existed in my own space. These are incredible, Alex murmured, reviewing shots on his camera. Madison, these aren't just photos, these are art. When we finished, I felt different, lighter, like I'd shed a skin that had never quite fit. Alex loaded the photos onto his laptop, and we spent an hour going through them, selecting the best ones for editing. I want you to post these, Alex said firmly. Not for revenge, not to make anyone jealous, for you, because you deserve to take up space in this world, and you deserve to be seen. That evening, I selected 3 photos that took my breath away. In one, I was laughing at something Alex had said, my eyes bright with genuine joy. In another, I gazed directly into the camera with a slight smile, looking like I knew secrets about confidence that others only dreamed of understanding. The third was artistic, dramatic, me in profile against a window, the red dress flowing like water, looking like someone who belonged in magazines. I crafted a simple caption. Sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is permission to shine. Merry Christmas to everyone who believes in their own worth. Within an hour, the likes and comments started pouring in. Friends from college, former co-workers, people I'd collaborated with professionally, all expressing amazement at the photos, asking who the photographer was, telling me I looked like a model. But the comment that stopped me cold came from someone I didn't expect. Tyler Walsh. Tyler was Derek's friend from college, someone I'd met maybe 3 times at various gatherings over the years. He was a successful photographer in his own right, specialising in commercial work and celebrity portraits. His Instagram had over 1 million followers, and his client list read like a who's who of Hollywood and Fortune 500 companies. His comment was simple but made my heart race. Madison Carter? Holy shit, when did Derek's little sister become absolutely stunning? This is incredible work, both the photography and the subject. Alex Martinez, right? I know his work, but seriously, Madison, you look amazing. I stared at that comment for a long time, processing the implications. Tyler Walsh, someone with serious industry credibility, had not only noticed my photos, but was impressed enough to comment publicly. More than that, he seemed genuinely shocked by my transformation, or maybe by finally seeing me clearly for the first time. I decided to respond simply. Thank you, Tyler. Alex is incredibly talented. Hope you're well. What I didn't expect was for him to slide into my DMs immediately. Madison, I hope this doesn't sound weird, but I had no idea about your work. I just looked at your portfolio on your website, and I'm blown away. The rebrand you did for TechFlow, the Mindful Meals logo series, this is seriously impressive stuff. Are you taking on new clients? I sat staring at my phone, reading and rereading his message. Tyler Walsh wanted to potentially hire me? The same Tyler Walsh whose work I'd been following and admiring for years. Thank you so much, I typed back. That really means a lot coming from you. I'm always open to discussing new projects. What did you have in mind? Actually, would you be open to a call tomorrow? I'm launching a new venture and need someone with your aesthetic sense for the complete visual identity. This could be a really significant project. A significant project with Tyler Walsh. I felt like I was dreaming. Absolutely, I'll send you my email and we can set up a time. As I hit send, I realised something profound was happening. While my family was planning their intimate Christmas celebration without me, actively pretending I didn't exist, I was building connections with people who saw my value immediately. People who sought me out, who wanted to work with me, who celebrated my talents instead of minimizing them. I looked at the photos Alex had taken, really looked at them and saw what everyone else was seeing. A woman who was successful, talented, beautiful, and completely worthy of love and respect. For 25 years, I'd been trying to earn recognition from people who were determined not to see me. But maybe the problem was never me. Maybe the problem was that I'd been seeking validation from people who were incapable of giving it. As I got ready for bed that night, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: excitement about my future. Tomorrow I'd talk to Tyler about a project that could change my career trajectory. I had a friend like Alex who saw my worth and celebrated it. I had photos that captured who I really was when I wasn't dimming my light to make others comfortable, My family thought they were punishing me by excluding me from Christmas. But as I drifted off to sleep, I realized they'd actually given me the greatest gift of all: the freedom to stop waiting for their approval and start living for myself. I had no idea that in just 5 days, everything would change in ways I never could have imagined. The call with Tyler the next morning exceeded every expectation I had. What started as a potential freelance project turned into something much bigger. He was launching a creative agency focused on rebranding established companies, and he wanted me as his creative director. Not just a contractor, but a partner in building something revolutionary. Madison, I've been following your work since yesterday, and I'm kicking myself for not discovering you sooner, Tyler said, his enthusiasm crackling through the phone. The way you reimagined TechFlow's entire visual language, the sophistication of your Mindful Meals campaign, this isn't just good design. This is storytelling through visuals. That's exactly what my clients need. I found myself sitting straighter, speaking with confidence I didn't know I possessed. For 45 minutes, we discussed vision, strategy, potential clients. Tyler mentioned names that made my heart race. Fortune 500 companies, celebrity brands, startups with massive funding. This wasn't just career advancement. This was a complete transformation of my professional life. The position starts at $200,000 plus equity and creative control over your projects, Tyler continued. I know it's a big move to New York, but Madison, I think you're exactly what we need to take this to the next level. $200,000. I was currently making $65,000 freelancing, thinking I was doing well for myself. This was life-changing money, the kind that would let me live in Manhattan, build a real savings account, never worry about rent again. When would you need an answer? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Take your time, but I'd love to get started after the new year. Think about it, talk it over with your family, and let me know. Talk it over with my family. I almost laughed at the irony. The family that had just banned me from Christmas was hardly going to be involved in my biggest career decision ever. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment, staring out at the Chicago skyline, processing what had just happened. In the span of 24 hours, I'd gone from being the invisible family member to having a life-changing opportunity dropped in my lap. It felt like the universe was trying to tell me something. Alex called that afternoon, practically vibrating with excitement when I told him about Tyler's offer. Madison, this is insane. Tyler Walsh wants you as his creative director. Do you know what this means? You're about to become one of the most influential designers in the country. It feels surreal, I admitted. Like maybe I'm dreaming. You're not dreaming, babe. You're finally in spaces where your talent is recognized. This is what happens when you stop shrinking yourself. That evening, as I researched Tyler's work more deeply, I discovered something that made my stomach flip. His Instagram stories from that day showed him at what looked like a Christmas party. Derek's Christmas party. The party I'd been banned from attending. I watched the stories with a mixture of fascination and dread. There was my family's house, decorated exactly as it had been every Christmas of my childhood. There was Derek playing the perfect host, Sarah by his side with their 2 kids. Emma and James arrived with little Michael, and the family reunion played out exactly as I'd imagined. Warm hugs, laughter, the kind of effortless joy that had never included me. Tyler's presence added an interesting dynamic. He moved through the party with the confidence of someone accustomed to high-profile social situations, but I could tell he was documenting everything with the eye of a professional. Several stories showed him talking with Derek, both men laughing at something off camera. Then came the moment that changed everything. Tyler posted a story of Derek showing off family photos on the mantle. The same mantle where my school pictures had been slowly replaced over the years with more photos of Derek and Emma's achievements. But in his story, Tyler zoomed in on one particular photo, a family portrait from about 5 years ago where I was visible in the background, barely in frame. His caption read, "Great party with the Carter family." Derek's been telling me about his success in real estate, but I had no idea his sister Madison was such an incredible designer. Small world. I screenshotted that story and stared at it for a long time. Tyler was at my family's Christmas party, the party I'd been explicitly banned from, and he was talking about me, talking about my work, probably asking Derek questions about his sister, the successful designer. I could only imagine Derek's face. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Derek's name flashed on the screen, and I debated whether to answer. Curiosity won. "Madison?" Derek's voice sounded strained, not at all like the confident host I'd seen in Tyler's stories. "Hi, Derek. So, Tyler Walsh is here. You know Tyler, right? From college?" "I know Tyler. He's been asking about you, about your work. He seems to think you're some kind of big deal designer." I could hear voices in the background, probably the family party continuing around him, while he stepped away for this awkward conversation. "Tyler reached out about a potential project," I said carefully. "He said he's offering you a job in New York as his creative director." The way Derek said it, with disbelief and something that sounded almost like panic, told me everything I needed to know. For the first time in our lives, I had something he wanted access to. I had a connection that mattered, a success that couldn't be minimized or dismissed. "It's a good opportunity," I said simply. "Madison, why didn't you tell us about your work? Tyler showed me your portfolio on his phone. That stuff you did for those tech companies, it's actually really impressive. Actually really impressive. Even in acknowledging my success, Derek couldn't help but sound surprised that I was capable of anything worthwhile." "You never asked," I replied. Silence stretched between us. In the background, I could hear Mum's voice calling Derek back to the party, probably wondering where the host had disappeared to. "Look, about Christmas," Derek started, his voice dropping lower. "Maybe there was a misunderstanding." "There wasn't a misunderstanding, Derek. You were very clear. But Tyler thinks it's weird that you're not here. He keeps asking where you are, and I don't know what to tell him." And there it was. Derek wasn't calling because he suddenly realized he'd treated me badly. He was calling because my absence was creating an awkward social situation with someone whose opinion mattered to him. "Tell him the truth," I suggested. "Tell him you didn't invite me because you thought I'd bring down the mood." "Madison, come on, you know it wasn't like that." "Derek, I have it recorded. Mum's exact words were that Emma was worried I'd make people uncomfortable, and you laughed and said you'd pretend not to know me if I showed up anyway." Another long silence. Derek couldn't deny what had been said because we both knew it was true. "Okay, look, maybe we handled this wrong," he said finally. "But it's not too late. You could still come over. Mum's making her Christmas cookies, and the kids would love to see their Aunt Madison." Aunt Madison, as if I'd ever been allowed to be a real aunt to Derek's kids, as if I'd been included in their lives enough for them to even remember me. "Derek, I appreciate the call, but I'm exactly where I want to be tonight. Tyler's going to think we're terrible people." "Are you terrible people?" I asked quietly. He couldn't answer that question, and we both knew why. After I hung up, I felt something I hadn't expected. Pity. Pity for Derek, who was probably scrambling to explain to his successful friend why his accomplished sister wasn't at the family Christmas. Pity for my parents, who had spent so many years dismissing my achievements that they had no idea how to talk about them when it mattered. Pity for Emma, who had probably never considered that excluding me might reflect poorly on her. For 25 years, they'd made me feel like my absence didn't matter. Tonight, they were learning that sometimes absence speaks louder than presence. An hour later, my phone rang again. This time, it was Mom. "Madison, honey, Derek told me about your conversation." Her voice had that careful tone she used when she was trying to fix something she'd broken. "I think there might have been some confusion about Christmas." "No confusion, Mum. You were very clear." "Well, Tyler Walsh is here, and he's been asking about you all evening. He seems to think very highly of your work." Of course, Tyler's opinion mattered because he was successful, because he was Derek's friend, because he was a man whose approval carried weight. My own accomplishments had never been enough to earn their respect. But Tyler's recognition of those accomplishments suddenly made them valuable. "That's nice to hear," I said. "He mentioned something about a job offer in New York?" I could hear the calculation in her voice, the sudden realization that maybe they'd been wrong about their unsuccessful daughter. "He offered me a position as creative director of his new agency." "Creative director? That sounds important." For the first time in my life, my mother sounded impressed by something I'd achieved. Not dismissive, not minimizing, but actually impressed. It should have felt like victory, but instead it felt hollow. Her pride was conditional, dependent on external validation from someone whose opinion she valued. "It is important, Mom." "Well, that's wonderful, sweetheart, really wonderful. Listen, why don't you come over? We can celebrate your good news, and you can tell Tyler thank you in person for the opportunity." Celebrate my good news at the party I'd been banned from attending, with the family who had spent decades making me feel worthless, so they could save face in front of Derek's important friend. "Mum, I'm going to stay home tonight." "But Madison, this is family time. Tyler keeps commenting on how odd it is that you're not here." He's asking questions about why Derek's successful sister isn't at the family Christmas. Successful sister. 24 hours ago, I was the family member too depressing to attend Emma's wedding. Tonight, I was Derek's successful sister, whose absence needed explaining. "What are you telling him?" I asked. "Well, we're not sure what to say. Derek mentioned that maybe we gave you the wrong impression about tonight." Wrong impression, as if there had been any ambiguity in don't come for Christmas and we'll pretend we don't know you. Mum, you didn't give me the wrong impression. You told me exactly how you felt. Madison, please. Tyler is very important to Derek's business network. If he thinks we're the kind of people who exclude family members, and there it was. The real reason for this call, not because they suddenly realised they'd hurt me, not because they missed me, but because my absence was reflecting poorly on them in front of someone whose opinion could impact Derek's career. I understand your concern, I said carefully, but I'm not coming tonight. Madison, please don't do this to us. Do this to them. As if my staying home was an attack rather than simply accepting the boundaries they'd set. Mom, I'm not doing anything to you. I'm respecting your decision. Our decision. You decided I wasn't part of the core family. You decided I'd make people uncomfortable. You decided to pretend you don't know me. I'm just accepting those decisions. I could hear voices in the background getting louder, probably Tyler asking more questions about the missing family member, probably Emma starting to realise how bad this looked. Madison, we're your family. We love you. You have a funny way of showing it. We've always been proud of your accomplishments. That statement was so outrageously false that I almost laughed. Almost. Mum, when I got into Northwestern with a full scholarship, Dad said, "That's nice." And immediately started talking about Derek's baseball season. When I graduated summa cum laude, you asked if I could change my flight home because it conflicted with Emma's yoga recital. When I landed my first major client, you forgot to ask about it for 3 months. Silence on the other end of the line. But Tyler mentioning my work suddenly makes you proud. Madison, that's not fair. What's not fair is spending 25 years making me feel invisible and then expecting me to show up when it's convenient for you. We never made you feel invisible. Mum, you didn't invite me to Emma's wedding because you thought I'd bring down the mood. You didn't tell me about Dad's birthday party. I found out Grandpa died 3 days after his funeral. Last Thanksgiving, I spent the day alone while you posted photos captioned, "Grateful for time with everyone we love." Everyone you love, not everyone in the family. Everyone you love. Each example landed like a physical blow. I could hear her breathing change, could imagine her realizing that their pattern of exclusion wasn't as subtle as they'd thought. I didn't realize you felt that way. You didn't realize because you never asked. And you never asked because you never thought to consider my feelings at all. Madison, please, come over. We can work this out. We can work this out now, tonight, because Tyler Walsh thinks it's weird that I'm not there. She couldn't answer, because we both knew that was exactly why she was calling. I need to go, Mom. Enjoy your family time. Madison, wait. I hung up and turned off my phone. I spent the rest of Christmas Eve in my apartment, cooking myself a beautiful dinner, watching old movies and feeling more peaceful than I had in years. No family drama, no walking on eggshells, no shrinking myself to fit into spaces that weren't designed for me. Just quiet, comfortable solitude with a woman I was finally getting to know. Myself. At midnight, I turned my phone back on to find 17 missed calls and 43 text messages from various family members. Derek, Mom, Emma, even Dad, who never texted, had all reached out with increasingly frantic messages. The text told a story I could picture perfectly. Derek. Tyler keeps asking about Madison. This is getting awkward. Emma. Madison, please just come over for an hour. People are asking questions. Mum. Tyler mentioned Madison might be moving to New York. We need to talk about this. Dad. Your mother is upset. Please call. Derek again. Tyler wants to know if we're having some kind of family conflict. I don't know what to tell him. Emma. Madison, I'm starting to realise how this looks. Can we please figure this out? Mum. Tyler said you might be his creative director. Why didn't you tell us about this opportunity? And finally, a text from Derek that made me smile. Tyler said to tell you he hopes you have a wonderful Christmas and that he's excited to work with such a talented designer. He also said it was interesting that we didn't mention your career when he asked about family updates. I think we fucked up, Madison. Yes, Derek, you fucked up. All of you did. For 25 years. But the text that surprised me most came from Tyler himself. Merry Christmas, Madison. I hope you're having a wonderful evening. Thank you for considering the position. I'm genuinely excited about the possibility of working together. Your family seems lovely, though Derek mentioned you couldn't make it tonight. Hope everything is okay. Looking forward to our next conversation. I read that message 3 times, processing the subtle implications. Tyler had clearly picked up on the awkwardness around my absence. He was too polite to ask directly, but his message suggested he sensed something wasn't quite right with the family narrative. On Christmas morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. No obligation to rush to unwrap gifts with people who didn't want me there. No pretending to be grateful for thoughtless presents while watching my siblings receive meaningful ones. No sitting at a dinner table where every conversation excluded me. Instead, I made myself an elaborate breakfast, video called Alex, who was spending Christmas with his chosen family in Los Angeles, and started researching neighborhoods in New York. By noon, I'd made my decision about Tyler's offer. I called him that afternoon, and he answered on the first ring. Madison, Merry Christmas. How are you? Merry Christmas, Tyler. I'm doing well, thank you. I wanted to call and accept your offer. Really? That's fantastic. Madison, I can't tell you how excited I am about this. When can you start? I can be in New York by January 2nd if that works for you. Perfect. I'll have my assistant send over all the paperwork and help you find temporary housing while you apartment hunt. We talked logistics for 20 minutes, discussing salary details, client meetings, the vision for the agency. Tyler's enthusiasm was infectious, and by the time we hung up, I felt like I was stepping into the life I was meant to live. That evening, I called my parents' house. Derek answered. Madison, thank God. Are you okay? We've been worried sick. I'm fine, Derek. Actually, I'm better than fine. I called to let you know I'm moving to New York next week. Next week? Madison, that's crazy. You can't just pick up and move across the country. I'm 25 years old and I just accepted a dream job. It's not crazy. It's exactly what I should be doing. But what about family? What about staying connected? I almost laughed at the irony. Derek, who had spent years treating me like an inconvenience, was suddenly concerned about family connections. Derek, let me ask you something. When was the last time you called me just to see how I was doing? Silence. When was the last time you invited me to something that wasn't a major holiday where excluding me would look obviously cruel? More silence. When was the last time you asked about my work, my life, my hopes, my dreams? Anything about me as a person, rather than just an obligation? Madison, you can't answer those questions because the answer is never. You've never been interested in staying connected with me. You've only been interested in having me available when it was convenient or when my absence became socially awkward. That's not true. Derek, yesterday, Tyler Walsh knew more about my career achievements than you did, and he'd only been following my work for 24 hours. You've been my brother for 25 years. I could hear voices in the background. Mom asking who I was talking to, Emma saying something about damage control. Look, I know we haven't been the best family to you, Derek said finally. But we can do better. We want to do better. You want to do better now because Tyler Walsh thinks it's weird that Derek Carter's successful sister wasn't at the family Christmas. Because my absence reflected poorly on you in front of someone whose opinion matters to your career. Madison, that's not Derek. If Tyler hadn't been there last night, would you be calling me today? He couldn't answer, and we both knew why. I wish you well, I said gently. I really do. But I'm done waiting for you to see my worth. I'm moving on to a life where my value isn't conditional on other people's approval. Madison, please don't cut us off. We're your family. You cut me off first, repeatedly, for years. I'm just finally accepting it. I hung up before he could respond. 2 days later, as I packed my apartment, I found a box of childhood photos I'd forgotten about. Pictures of family vacations where I stood slightly apart from the group. Holiday mornings where my smile looked forced. Birthday parties where I was clearly trying too hard to fit in. Looking at them now, I could see what I'd been unable to recognize as a child. I had never belonged in those pictures. I had been trying to force myself into a frame that wasn't designed to include me. But that was okay. I was about to step into a completely different picture, one where I wasn't trying to earn my place, where my presence was wanted and valued, where my talents were celebrated rather than dismissed. On December 31st, I loaded my car with everything that mattered and started driving toward New York City. As Chicago's skyline disappeared in my rearview mirror, I felt something I'd never experienced before, complete confidence in my own worth. My phone buzzed with a text from Alex. Happy New Year, superstar. Go show them what Madison Carter is really capable of. I smiled and kept driving toward my new life, leaving behind 25 years of being invisible and stepping into a future where I would never have to shrink myself again. They had wanted me gone, and finally I was giving them exactly what they'd asked for. But I was also giving myself something far more valuable, the chance to discover who I could become when I stopped waiting for permission to shine.